Television is a system for transmitting visual images and sounds that are reproduced on screens, chiefly used to broadcast programs for entertainment, information, and education. The television set has become a commonplace. The television set has become a commonplace in many households and institutions. It is a major vehicle for advertising. TV pixels in our brain. In order to understand what makes the television possible and why are they designed in that way, we have to start with the brain. There are two principles involved in giving you insight into why TVs are designed in that way. In order to understand what makes a television possible and why they are designed in that way, we have to start with the brain. There are two principles involved that gives you insight into why televisions are designed in that way. The first is this. If you divide a still image into a collection of small colored dots, your brain will assemble them into a meaningful picture. The only way we can see this happen is by blowing up these dots into large enough size till our brain can no longer assemble them like this. If you're sitting very close to a computer screen, you may not be able to tell what the picture is because of how large the dots are. However, if you're standing 10 to 15 feet away from your monitor, your brain will be able to assemble these dots in the image and you'll be able to see a clear picture. By standing at a distance, these dots become small enough for your brain to integrate them into a recognizable image. Both televisions and computer screens, as well as newspapers and magazine photos, rely on the fusion of small colored dots. Both television and computer screens rely on this fusion of small colored dots capability in the human brain to chop up pictures into thousands of individual elements on the TV or computer screens. The dots are called pixels. On a TV or computer screen, these dots are called pixels. The motion and your brain. This is the principle. If you divide The principle is this. If you divide a moving scene into a sequence of still images and show a still image in rapid succession the brain will resemble the still images into a single moving scene. By putting together 15 or more subtly different frames per second, the brain integrates them into a moving scene. 15 frames per second is about the possible. Sorry, 15 frame 15 15 per second is about the minimum possible. Any fewer than that looks really jerky. Cathode ray tube. A few TVs in use today rely on a device known as a cathode ray tube or CRT to display their images. Though there are other common technologies like LCDs and plasmas too, the term anode and cathode are used in electronic devices as synonyms for positive and negative terminals. In a cathode ray tube, the cathode is a heated filament in the vacuum created inside the glass tube. The ray is a stream of electrons that naturally pours off a heated cathode into the vacuum. Now the electrons are negative while the anode is positive, and therefore the two experience a force of interaction. In a TV cathode ray tube, the stream of electrons is focused by focusing anode into a tight beam and then accelerated by an accelerating anode. This tight, high-speed beam of electrons flies through the vacuum in a tube and hits the flat screen at the end of the tube. This screen is coated with phosphor, which glows when struck by the beam. Inside a CRT. You might wonder what is inside a CRT. You have a cathode and a pair of anodes or more, a phosphor coated screen, and a conductive coating inside the tube that absorbs the electrons that pile up on the screen. However, there is no way to steer the beam, resulting in it always landing at the center of the screen as a tiny dot. As a solution, the tube is wrapped in coils of wires. TV phosphors. A phosphor is any material when exposed to radiation emits visible light, and it's characterized by its emission colors and the length of time the emission lasts after excitation. Any fluorescent color is really a phosphor. Fluorescent colors absorb invisible ultraviolet light and emit visible light in characteristic colors. In CRT, phosphor coats the inside of the screen when the electron beam strikes the phosphor. It makes the screen glow. In black and white screens, there is one phosphor that glows white light when struck, and on the other hand, in colored screens, there are three phosphors arranged as dots or stripes that emit red, green, and blue light, and three electron beams to illuminate them together.
TV steering coils. These steering coils are simply copper windings able to generate magnetic fields inside the tube that our electron beam responds to. One set of the coil creates a magnetic field and moves the electron beam vertically, while the other set moves the beam horizontally. By controlling the voltages in the coils, the electron beams can be positioned at any point of the screen. The black and white TV signal. As we mentioned earlier, in the black and white TV signal, the TV, the screen, is coated with white phosphor. The electron beam paints an image onto the screen by moving across the phosphor one line to the other. To paint the entire screen, the circuit inside the TV uses the magnetic coils to move the electron beam in a rather scan pattern across the entire screen. The beam paints one line across the screen from left to right. It then quickly flies back to the left side, moving down slightly, and paints another horizontal line, and so goes down the screen. And in this figure, we can see the blue lines representing the electron beam that is painting on the screen, while the red dashed lines represent the beam flying back to the left. When the beam reaches the right side of the bottom line, it has to move back to the upper left corner of the screen. And represented by the green lines in the figure, when the beam is painting, it is on, and when it is flying back, it is off. So as to not leave a trail on the screen. The term horizontal retrace is used to refer to the beam moving back to the left of the end of each line. The term horizontal retrace is used to refer to the beam moving back to the left of each line, while the term vertical retrace refers to its movement from top to bottom. Painting the TV screen. Standard TVs use what is called an interlacing technique when painting the screen. In this technique, the screen is painted 60 times per second, but only half of the lines are painted per frame. The beam paints every other line as it moves down the screen. Let's say every odd number line. Then the next time it moves down the screen, it paints every numbered line, alternating black and forth between even numbered and odd number lines each time. Thus, in the two passes, the entire screen is painted 30 times per second. The alternative to this is progressive scanning, which paints every line on the screen 60 times per second. In the case of analog TVs, when a television station wants to broadcast a signal of your TV, or when your VCR wants to display the movie on your videotape, the signal needs to mesh with the electronics controlling the beam so that the TV can accurately paint the picture that the station or the VCR sends. Therefore, a well-known signal is sent to the TV that contains three different parts. First, intensity information of the beam as it paints each line. Second, horizontal retrace signals to tell the TV when to move the beam back to the end of each line. And third, vertical retrace signals 60 times per second to move the beam from bottom right to top left. Composite video signals. A signal that contains all three of the above mentioned components is called a composite video signal. The image displayed shows what one line of a typical composite video signal looks like. The horizontal retrace signals are 5 microsecond pulses at 0 volts used by circuits within the TV to trigger the beam's horizontal retrace. The actual signal for the line is a varying wave between 0.5 volts and 2 volts, when 0.5 volts is representing black and 2 volts is representing white. The signal drives the intensity current for each electronic beam in a black and white TV. This signal can consume about 3.5 megahertz of bandwidth, while a color set in the limit of about 3 megahertz. A color TV screen differs from a black and white screen in three ways. As mentioned earlier, there are three electronic beams that move simultaneously across the screen, which are red, green, and blue beams. The screen is not coated with a single sheet of phosphor as in a black and white TV screen. Instead, the TV screen is coated with three colors that are red, green, and blue phosphors arranged in dots or strips, which you can see if you turn on your TV or computer monitor and look closely at the screen with a magnifying glass. Finally, on the inside of the tube, very close to the phosphor coating, there is a thin metal sheet called the shadow mask, which is perforated with very small holes that are aligned with phosphor dots or strips on the screen. When a color TV needs to create a red dot, it fires the red electron beam at the red phosphor, and does so similarly for the green and blue dots. To create a white dot, the red, green, and blue beams are fired simultaneously, mixing together to create white. On the other hand, to create a black dot, all three beams are turned off as they can scan past the dot.
Color TV signal. A color TV signal starts off looking just like a black and white signal, but has an extra chrominance signal added by superimposing an approximately 3.58 megahertz sine wave onto the standard black and white signal. Right after the horizontal sync pulse, 8 cycles of the 3.58 megahertz sine wave are also added as a color burst. Following these 8 cycles, there's a phase shift in the chrominance signal that indicates the color to be displayed, whereas the amplitude of the signal determines the saturation. Given on this slide is the relationship between the color and the phase. A black and white TV filters out and ignores the chrominance signal. A color TV, on the other hand, picks it out of the signal and decodes it, along with the normal intensity signal to determine how to modulate the three color beams. TV broadcasts. Sound and video are completely separate in an analog TV. However, there are 5 different ways for you to get a signal into your TV set, which are the 5 of them are given on the slide. However, we are only going to be focusing on 3 major ones: the VCR and cable signals and satellite signals. A typical TV signal requires around 4 megahertz of bandwidth. By the time you add in sound, a vestigial sideband, which is an amplitude modification technique, and a buffer space, the signal requires 6 megahertz of bandwidth. So VCRs are essentially their own little TV stations, with a videotape containing a composite video signal and a separate sound signal. The VCR has a circuit inside it that takes the video and sound signals off the tape and turns them into a signal that, to the TV, looks just like the broadcast signal for a particular channel. The cable in a cable TV contains a large number of channels that are transmitted. Your cable provider could simply modulate the different programs onto all of the normal frequencies and transmit that to your house. In turn, the tuner in your TV would accept the signal and you would not need a cable box. Unfortunately, that approach would make theft of cable services very easy, so the signals are encoded, the set-top box being a decoder. You select the channel on it, it decodes the right signal, and then does the same thing a VCR does to transmit the signal to the TV. Moving on to satellite TV signals. Large dish satellite antennas pick up signals that are either encoded or unencoded, being beamed to the Earth by satellites. First, you point the dish to a particular satellite, and then you select a particular channel that's being transmitted. The set-top box receives the signal, decodes it if necessary, and then sends it to a channel. Small dish satellite systems are digital. The TV programs are encoded in MPEG-2 format and transmitted to the Earth. The set-top box decodes the MPEG-2, then converts it to a standard analog TV signal and sends it to your TV. Digital TV. The latest buzz is digital TV, which is also known as DTV or HDTV, which is high definition TV. DTV uses MPEG-2 encoding just like the satellite systems do, but digital TV also allows for a variety of new larger screen formats, which is where resolutions like 480p, 720p, 1080i, and 1080p come into the picture. A digital TV decodes the MPEG-2 signal and displays it just like a computer monitor does, giving it incredible resolution and stability. Though there are also a wide range of set-top boxes that can decode a digital signal and convert it to analog to display on a normal TV. A true digital TV involves digital cameras, which work at a much higher resolution than analog cameras, digital transmission, and digital display at a much higher resolution. Resolution comparison. This has been the way that TV has worked for years. But now we're so used to looking at computer monitors that have a much better resolution that our expectations have also increased. The lowest resolution computer monitor displays 640 by 480 pixels. Because of all the interlacing, the effective resolution of a TV screen is perhaps 512 by 400 pixels. The worst computer monitors that you can buy have more resolution than the best analog TV set. And the best computer monitors are able to display up to 10 times more pixels than that TV set. There's no comparison between a computer monitor and an analog TV in terms of detail, crispness, image stability, and color. The drive towards digital TV is fueled by the desire to give TV the same crispness and detail as a computer screen. Digital TVs have 10 times more pixels on the screen, all displayed with digital precision, producing a picture that's incredibly detailed and stable. It's hard to convey the difference between a DTV signal and an analog signal without an actual demonstration, but the pictures given here are a static comparison that can help you understand the idea. What we're looking at is a picture of an odometer. The one on the left is a picture that we can assume is being displayed on a good digital TV. And the one on the right is what you would see on an analog TV, for example. So if you look at both of them side by side, you can see that the analog TV picture is much fuzzier, especially if you focus on the teeth on the gears. There's a significant difference in picture quality that's even more obvious when the image is moving. It's this quantitative difference that drives the interest in digital TV. And as if the incredible pictures weren't enough, digital TV also offers much better sound. On the other hand, a newscast showing a newscaster's head can use a much lower bit rate. A broadcaster might transmit it at 480p resolution and a 3 Mbps bit rate, leaving 16.39 Mbps of space for other subchannels. In conclusion, in our discussion of the working principles behind a television, we've also learned the difference between the working of an analog TV and a digital TV, which just goes to show that, pandemic or not, the pursuit of knowledge never ends.